This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. A showdown between the University of Tasmania and its staff is threatening to boil over and embroil students in the dispute. The National Tertiary Education Union is fighting for a new deal on pay and conditions and is threatening industrial action if it's not reached by next month. That could include the cancellation of classes and withholding exam results.
These UTAS students are concerned their exam results could be withheld next month, fearing the threat of industrial action will impact them at an already stressful time.
Because I'm wanting to transfer institutions and it will hold me up, I'm not very happy about it in the slightest.
Having results would sort of create uncertainty, and I guess that's just stressful on any university student.
A petition launched by a young student Liberal last night strongly urges the union to consider another form of action, claiming students' education shouldn't be compromised in the debate.
Things that will affect the administration more so than students would be the ideal here.
But the NTEU says it has reached its last resort in its push for a new staff agreement, with some students in support of the action.
Staff working conditions are student learning conditions. We're asking the students to in fact stand in solidarity with us.
Sit down and sort out this agreement. They're using students as pawns and it's unacceptable.
In a statement, the university says talks are continuing in good faith, but it is disappointed in the threat, saying the action would impact on all students.
There's one very good way for any bans or any industrial action to be avoided, and that's for a staff agreement to be forthcoming.
The university and the NTEU have been negotiating unsuccessfully for 14 months over pay and working conditions. The union says negotiations stalled from July this year, and 95% of the staff it represents voted yes to withholding marks and stopping classes next month if a compromise wasn't reached soon.
I would like that we didn't have to go to such extremes.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
After 3.5 years of campaigning, Tasmanian volunteer firefighters could soon have access to the same cancer-related workers' compensation as those working full-time. The state government says it will move to amend the existing laws in coming days.
Every day our firefighters put their lives on the line to help others, but volunteers haven't always been protected themselves. Currently, if full-time firefighters are presumed to have contracted cancer on the job, they can access workers' compensation. But those who volunteer aren't given the same entitlements.
There was this artificial hurdle, discriminatory hurdle put in place for volunteers, which made that threshold extremely difficult for some volunteers. And in fact, less than 25% of our 5,000 volunteers were covered.
The Emergency Services Minister says in coming days he will move to amend the law so every firefighter is given the same protection.
We want to bring that to an end, the high bar, and lower the bar to exactly the same as the career firefighters.
We don't ask for an awful lot. We love doing what we're doing. That's why we're volunteers. And for us to get that entitlement and remove that burden of proof is just indescribable, and that's what it should have been from day one.
We welcome the news by the government that they're going to extend this to volunteer firefighters too, and we'll be very supportive of that legislation.
Industry experts say the risk of contracting cancer on the job is low, but not unheard of.
There's 12 cancers that we identified that go from prostate through to lung and different organs that are related to firefighting in relation to heat, smoke, whatever the exposures might be.
And with temperatures set to rise to the mid-20s across the state next week, firefighters say the legislation change comes at the right time.
In the East Coast and the South, we're going to have significant fires this year, and we must have our volunteers to do that. Our 300 career firefighters cannot cope with the magnitude of fires that we anticipate.
Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's international students will soon be forced to sit an English benchmark test before undertaking their studies. Under the new national reforms announced in Hobart today, foreign students will need to prove they have the language skills to fully participate in educational institutions.
If you enrol in an English language course and you're undertaking it as preparation for further study in Australia, you must meet the benchmark for study in those further enrolments you have.
The new benchmark testing will start next year. In a Tasmanian telecommunications first, drones are being used to help improve mobile phone services. Telstra is using the gadgets to inspect its phone towers and to also find new base station locations to expand its network.
Taking off on a new venture. These are the gadgets Telstra says will help improve its mobile network.
So we can site new locations. It also helps for health and safety as well.
Previously, cherry pickers and cranes have been needed to lift technicians high enough to complete inspections. But now workers can be on solid ground, using only remote controls, a drone and a tablet.
They're very expensive to maintain, so this can save a lot of money in terms of inspection. We can look for loose bolts or infrastructure that needs some maintenance.
During a time of emergency services, we'll need to use drone technology to inspect our towers to make sure they're still operational. And also we can see what's wrong with the base station during times of duress, so we know what resources we choose to fix them.
Richard is currently Telstra's only Tasmanian drone pilot, but the company plans to eventually have 3 pilots working across the state, so more inspections can be done from the air. Richard's first pilot task will be on Flinders Island next week. He'll be working to find sites for $11 million worth of new communication infrastructure.
The plan is to upgrade the existing 4 base stations on Flinders and also expand to 4 brand new base stations on Flinders Island. They're going to have faster mobile speeds and more mobile coverage.
The company says no jobs will be lost in the drone rollout. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
The Fairy Floss, Animal Nursery and Endless Rides could all be up in the air as questions surround the annual Royal Launceston Show's future. With the show succumbing to economic pressure and record low attendances, this could be its final hurrah.
A once-loved event now facing an uncertain future. Could this be the final Royal Launceston Show?
There is a strong possibility it could be the last show. If numbers aren't strong enough through the Cape, then this could very well be our last show.
Economic pressure, a change of venue and not enough community support are some of the reasons why the annual show could end after 144 years.
We're just getting to the stage where costs are getting too high and numbers are getting too low, and it's sort of getting to the stage where it's just not viable.
The Atkinson family have been involved in the show for 60 years. They say it's disappointing support has dropped.
Once upon a time there were people everywhere around you while we were judging, etc. Now there's almost no one.
The number of people attending the Launceston Show over the past few years has rapidly decreased. Organisers say 13,000 to 15,000 people are needed to walk through the doors over 3 days to keep the show operating.
The shows aren't quite what they were. I'm not sure this venue suits.
Some of the rides and things are a little bit expensive is probably what pulls people off.
It's something of Launceston. You wait every October for it to happen. It's good.
But some are hopeful.
While there's life, there is always hope. And I'm sure, the Launceston Show Society, they've been having it running since 1873. There will be a lot of incentive for them to make sure they're not the last show society.
The show will run until Saturday. Rita Risk, Southern Cross News.
Tasmanian disability support workers say technology is creating a danger for vision impaired people. Visibility is launching Eyes Up, an awareness campaign encouraging pedestrians to look up from their mobile phones while walking around. A recent survey of vision impaired people suggested 60% of collisions were due to other people engrossed in their mobile devices.
It's really easy for people to bump into them, particularly if they're on their mobile phone or they're rushing, and it can be really devastating to someone with a white cane to be knocked over or their cane broken.
As well as causing injuries, collisions can also affect confidence and independence. The latest Domain State of the Market report shows continuing growth in our property prices and rent. While the boom is good news for homeowners and investors, it's leaving some Tasmanians behind, with the Salvation Army reporting an increase in housing stress.
Tasmanian real estate continues to be hot property. Domain releasing its figures for the September quarter, confirming Hobart has the highest annual growth among state capitals. The latest quarter seeing a 4.4% increase in median house prices to $409,000.
It just confirms really where the market's going and where it's heading. It's all really positive. The popularity of Tasmania continues.
Rents are also on the rise, up by 13% in the last 12 months, and the hike in housing is being felt in other parts of the state.
We're actually seeing Launceston, the market has really improved up there. They're probably the fastest moving region in the state at the moment. Northwest Coast, it's starting to filter through.
But the boom is having an impact on vulnerable Tasmanians. The Salvation Army releasing a survey of its clients, with 92% reporting extreme housing stress.
Which means that 50% of their income or more is actually spent in keeping their housing accommodation.
But for those caught up with housing costs, there are some support services out there.
What the Salvation Army does is assist them with their budgeting, help them make those priorities, and also in those times when they're really struggling to make ends meet, we can assist them financially to do that in a very small way.
Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A look now at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The share market has overcome early falls to close higher as all sectors outside of mining posted gains. The ASX 200 index has risen by 22.4 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 78.19 US cents and 65.8 euro cents.
Tim Payne is set to lead the Tasmanian Tigers for their opening Futures League clash once he returns from national duties. Payne is one of 8 Tasmanian contracted players named in the squad, including Jake Doran, Caleb Jewell and Jake Hancock. The side take on Western Australia in Perth from October 16. Meantime, Veronica Pike and Caitlin Fryatt have been announced as the Hobart Hurricanes' latest signings for their upcoming WBBL campaign. Fryatt played in 7 matches in purple last season, while Pike played a crucial role in the side making it through to the semi-finals. After an underwhelming couple of years, one of the state's most unique sporting events was in danger of fading into obscurity. But with an array of new faces on board, competitor numbers are back up and organisers are confident that this weekend will see the rebirth of the Freycinet Challenge. No one knows the challenge better than reigning back-to-back winner Alex Hunt, and the Tasmanian athlete says he can sense a turning of the tide for this year's edition of the once prestigious multi-sport event.
New direction for the race with a few changes and hopefully we sort of get to see, well, I think we almost are seeing the sort of numbers that the race had in its heyday.
With 300 competitors set to tackle the unique event this weekend, its new organisers, including 2014 winner Mark Padgett, have also re-secured Moobrew as a major sponsor, with the company sharing in the optimism that the 2017 challenge will prove the reinvigoration the event needs.
A huge potential. I mean, you know, there's not too many places where you can sort of fit all those disciplines into the one area quite close, and there's a great interchange section and stuff like that. So, and the community are definitely getting behind it up there as well, so it's great space.
With 2 days of intense competition consisting of more than 80 kilometres on the bike, 25 kilometres of running and a 10-kilometre kayak, Hunt is once again the heavy favourite.
Hopefully my brother steps it up a bit this year. I know he's been training a bit harder than usual, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes.
And while the sponsor is entering 3 teams of its own, their expectations aren't quite as high.
Mate, I think we probably should have laid off the product a little bit before, before now. But look, we'll give it a crack.
It gets underway Saturday morning on the Freycinet Peninsula.
Good evening, Hobart. 17 degrees today. Launceston People's Day at the show played out in 2 parts. Mostly fine this morning. A bit windy this afternoon with a few showers and 15 for Burnie and Devonport as well. Friendly Beaches the high with 19 degrees. As we mentioned, a windy day with the bulk of the expected rain falling overnight. Mount Reid had 37 mils to 9 a.m. and 17 millimetres today. St Helens 18 degrees. Bushy Park and Campania 17. King Island 16. Wynyard Grove and Flinders Island 15 degrees. Lowhead 14 and Strawn just 13. The passage of a trough brought the cloud to the state today. That cloud also over Victoria and parts of coastal South Australia. Another band is over the New South Wales-Queensland border area, and cloud containing thunderstorms sits over central Western Australia. Now there's the cloud that gathered firstly over the west and it moved across the state, bringing those scattered showers. Tomorrow a cold front crosses in the early hours. A high over the Bight drifts slowly to the east and troughs are over the east and west of the nation. Westerly winds at 20 to 30 knots, reaching 30 to 40 knots over the south, easing during the day. Swells up to 4 and 5 metres. Gale warning from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point. A strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters apart from the upper east coast. A small craft wind alert for the lakes. Becoming cloudy for Hobart, 16 the top tomorrow, 15 with a possible shower over Huonville and 16 the high for Campania. Launceston, partly cloudy and 17, 16 for Devonport, partly cloudy as well for Georgetown, 10 overnight, 16 tomorrow. Bit of cloud over Burnie, 16 the maximum, 14 with a shower for Strawn, and Wynyard partly cloudy, 16. St Helens, partly cloudy and 18, 18 for Swansea, maybe a shower for Port Arthur, a high of 16 degrees. And the UV just nudging into the high range. On Saturday, fine apart from light showers over the west and far south. Fine on Sunday with another light shower over the west. Fine and partly cloudy on Monday with light northerly winds. Mostly sunny in Perth, a possible morning shower in Adelaide and Melbourne. Mostly sunny in Canberra, 22 there. A shower or two for Sydney and Brisbane. Sunny and 35 in Darwin. Right now it's mostly clear in Hobart, 13 degrees, a few light showers in the north, Launceston 13 and Devonport 12. Saw you rubbing your hands earlier, Joe. A bit of warm weather coming next week.
I cannot wait. Thank you very much, Merv. It's all from the team for now. Have a lovely evening. See you a bit later. Bye-bye.